All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Tech Thursdays, episode 163. We're going to talk about all the big changes for Microsoft's Xbox, as well as some other changes in the game industry, as well as what's going on with the components for electronics. We've talked about that what feels like forever now, at least since this year began. But there's a couple of things I want to talk about regarding that. There are some hardware rumors that there's some articles that we're going to go through on this episode of Tech Thursdays that kind of point to potential relief from component shortages. And it was, like I said a few weeks ago, where if there's anyone that can save this situation, it's going to be Chinese companies. And that seems to be the case here. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the stream. But how is everybody doing? This is Tech Thursdays. I know a lot of my longtime viewers, they really look forward to this. I feel like this year, compared to our previous years, has been one of the least motivating years to talk about electronics as a whole, just because of how things are with pricing and things like that. To the point where it does feel like there is the potential loss of some people from this hobby, the gaming hobby, and the PC DIY hobby. Probably the latter more so than the former, at least for now. Mainly because computer prices, like component prices right now for individual parts, are so high. I mean, there's still a lot of things that we might talk about, like keyboards, mice, headphones, monitors, things that are not CPU, RAM, GPU, anything with memory or flash memory. That's still relatively affordable if you're trying to get into the hobby of upgrading and building your own computer. But I do think that, unfortunately, it does seem like going the pre-built route might actually be the most cost-effective way this year, and that might bleed over into next year. But as someone who has been a long-time hobbyist building custom computers for what feels like a really, really long time now, basically since the Q6600 days, so it's almost 20 years at this point. It's not really ebbs and flows, because this has never really happened before with memory and electronics going up, especially watching things like gaming consoles go up in price, not down in price. That's never actually happened before. So it's just kind of a really interesting time. So I do have a picture here of the Trident Z5 DDR5 memory. One of the things that I do want to get into here is where is it? No, actually, okay. We'll start with this story first. Memory shortages drive DDR4 prices. So recently, if you've been paying attention to the gaming content on this channel, I have been looking at older computers and how viable it is to use an older computer. Basically, hold off from upgrading while you weather the storm of all of these ridiculous prices for DDR5. And we started with DDR3. And what's funny is this article's title says that DDR3 is also impacted. DDR3, I laughed when I read this, because I thought DDR3 is affected. But then I started thinking, yeah, DDR3 is actually still used in the industry. It's not really used in the consumer electronics world anymore, but it is used in the enterprise world. It is in a lot of devices that have high uptime, that are very reliable. So there's a lot of IT devices that still use DDR3 out in the field. So, but now DDR3 is affected, that shows you the extent of how far-reaching the situation has gotten to the point where even DDR3, the humble DDR3, is now also impacted by a higher cost. So DDR4 is going up. It looks like DDR4 prices are over 50% higher expected in Q3 of this year. I assume that's year over year, because I don't think they're 50% higher compared to last quarter. But man, that is something to see DDR4 up 50%. I assume it's 50% year over year. That is crazy. Because when we were doing our testing with older computers, what we discovered was DDR3 is not really viable for a modern gaming PC. Like, you can still play old games on it, and that's mostly fine. But if you try to play modern games that really hammer the CPU and require a lot of memory bandwidth, it doesn't really work that well. We have proof of this on multiple live streams that I did with DDR3 computers. We did an Intel DDR3 computer. We did an AMD DDR3 computer. Both of them were unsatisfactory, unless you were playing old games. And when I say old games, I'm talking like PS4 generation. So, last gen stuff, it's fine. But if you try to play like modern games, modern multiplayer games, it's not very good. DDR4, however, what we discovered when I did the DDR4 test, and we're not done with DDR4. I'm going to test a couple of I got like 2 Intel CPUs that I want to look at with DDR4. But we recently tested a bunch of old AMD CPUs. We tested like 3800X, which is similar to like a base PS5 in terms of the CPU performance. It's a little bit faster than the PS5 because PS5 is so power limited. But you can still game on a DDR4 computer from like 5 years ago. It works. It's fine. I mean, even 6 years ago. So we kind of ended the AMD DDR4 test with this 10 AMD AM4 Anniversary Edition. So this is the 5800X 3D. The 5800X 3D definitely can prolong the lifespan of a DDR4 system. That's what the results showed. So we're going to also look at Intel. And the one thing that I will say about Intel, I was looking for motherboards recently, specifically DDR4 motherboards for Intel's 12th gen or 14th gen CPUs. And I couldn't really find any good DDR4 motherboards. Like Micro Center doesn't really have them anymore. So they're all DDR5 based, which is a little bit disappointing, because DDR4 I thought was a decent alternative. You could still game on DDR4, but I already have a DDR4 motherboard that supports the Intel 12th gen, so I've had one since the launch, since 2021. So we will be looking at that computer in the future to see how well, if you're someone who has a last gen Intel platform like a 12th gen or a 14th gen, what does the gaming performance look like if you're paired up with DDR4? So if you're basically limited to DDR4 speeds, because you do lose quite a bit of memory bandwidth capability by not pairing that CPU up with modern DDR5. So that is something that we will be looking at in the future. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in seeing how that performs. But according to this article, DDR4 prices are going up. So that kind of defeats the purpose of me even doing this exercise, but we're still going to finish it regardless. So that's interesting. So DDR4 is up. So it shows here the average price for DDR3 in July. This is a DDR3 4 gigabit. So this is a 512 megabyte times 8, $12.75 versus DDR5 for 16 gigabit. So this is $47. So you can see DDR4, they don't show the DDR4 numbers, they show DDR3. I would have liked to see the DDR4 numbers. But in any case, this is not over. Like, this is just a trend that we just have to suffer through, it seems like, for what feels like a really long time. One thing I do want to point out, though, is I saw an article right here. Yeah. So this is a very interesting article from WCCF Tech. MSI brings optimized CXMT. So CXMT is the Chinese company that makes memory chips. DDR5 memory support to its AM5 800 and 600 series motherboards in the latest BIOS also enables TSME. So TSME, for those that don't know what that is some kind of service level encryption for, I think, the TPM or something. It is something that was supposed to be for Epic and Enterprise, so like Ryzen Pro. AMD had that available, then they took it away in a BIOS update, and now they put it back in there. So that's whatever. But this is the main thing to pay attention to. So CXMT, DDR5 memory support coming to AM5. That's actually really good to hear. It's going to help the Chinese domestic market. So, I mean, that's good because the more supply you have, doesn't matter where it's going, it will help. So it looks like that's being added. And it does. What surprises me is they do mention that CXMT has DDR5 memory now that can hit 8,000 mega transfers on the motherboard. So it looks like here they are using a MSI Meg X870 Unify. That's a 2-DIMM overclocker's motherboard. So this only has 2 DIMMs. You can't do 4 sticks on this one. That means you can push really high speeds though. And they're doing 48 gigs, so they're doing 2 times 24. And this is CXMT, and they're pushing 8,200 mega transfers at CL40. So that is basically the equivalent. These speeds that they're running are the equivalent to the CU DIMMs that I currently have. So that's really interesting that they're running this type of speed from the Chinese memory company, CXMT. Does it say? Yeah, King Bank. I think King Bank is the distributor that's distributing the memory in the Chinese market and probably the surrounding areas. And then if they're going to be able to sell internationally, I believe they're going to sell through Lexar. So if you're interested in buying this memory, or if you stumble across memory and you're trying to figure out where, if it's CXMT, Lexar might be distributing CXMT in the future in the West. So just be on the lookout for that. So that is really, really good news. This is probably the best news I have heard all week, because we're going to talk about the Xbox thing in a little bit, and that's not very good news. I mean, it depends on who you ask, but in general, I think it's bad news. But this is actually good news, because I've been saying this for a while, that I think the only way we can see some relief from the situation with component shortages is if there's more supply. And how do you get more supply? You get the Chinese companies. So, because apparently no one else can do it. And the reason why it has to be them is because if you read, it mentions in here somewhere in the article, maybe it was another article that I was reading, basically the 3 big companies, Samsung, Hynix, and Micron, have signed all these deals to only manufacture the bulk of their capacity. We're talking like 90% plus of their capacity to the enterprise business customers. So we're talking, all the AI guys, we're talking all the big tech companies. They're taking up all the memory. They've signed all the deals. So their hands are tied. They can't sell to consumers. That's why Micron's gone. I mean, not Micron. That's why Crucial is going away or gone. They're supposed to be gone. Crucial is supposed to be gone, yet you can go into a Micro Center and still buy Crucial. So I don't understand what's going on there. That's probably supply chain related, but that's why they're not selling to consumers. And that's why the prices are sky high. So it's up to CXMT to save the day, apparently. So really interesting article. Probably the best news I've seen in a long time. So let's look at another story. Well, I don't know. Do we want to already go into this? Do we want to go into the Xbox thing? Do you guys want to talk about the Xbox thing? Or do we still want to talk about memory? Trying to think, there was another article I saw that was related to this one. I think it was Asus. Yeah, Asus. Asus demos Chinese DDR5 clocking up to 8400 on AM. Okay, here they mentioned Lexar's mentioned. Okay. So 48 gig and 32 gig from King Bank and Lexar. So, man, okay, Lexar is trying to get in there. It's funny because I know Apple. Apple is lobbying the US government right now. They've been doing this basically since March. Apple is lobbying the US government to allow Chinese memory, basically to allow Apple to buy all the Chinese memory. It's so weird, man. The situation is so weird. Sometimes I hear these stories about these tech companies, I just start laughing because it just sounds so hilarious. Because it shows how desperate these companies are right now because of the memory, because of all this AI stuff. So anyway, so CXMT now has DDR5 running at 8400 on Asus AM5 motherboards. So King Bank, okay. Yeah, that's good. 48 gigs. 48 gigs fast. That's what I say. 48 gigs fast, 96 gigs big. So if you're not running the big 96 gig capacity, you're running 48 gigs for a gaming PC. So that's how I see it. 24, yeah, they're doing the good stuff here. So that's really good, actually. So it says here, China's chips have no limits. Chinese chips no limits. Asus motherboards help domestically produce memory chips from brands like Kingmax and Lexar achieve stable speeds over 8,000. 24 GB capacity sticks unlock DDR5 8400. Wow. Wow. All right, I'm going to do a poll real quick. Start a poll. Would you buy CXMT DDR5? Yes or no? Very simple question. All right, the poll is up. I'm curious to know if my audience would get this CXMT DDR5. 48 gigs. 2x24. That means if you buy 2 kits, now you have 4 sticks 96. You'd be doing exactly what I'm doing. See what I did there? See, I know what I'm doing with the memory. We're going to look at this one next, and then we're going to look at... This is a weird one. I didn't expect to see that. All right, Intel. All right, let's take a look at Intel. We're going to talk about Intel and then AMD, and then we'll talk about Xbox. All right, looks like it's interesting. 2/3. 2/3 of the audience says yes, and 1/3 says no. Although we only have 12. We only have like half of the people that are watching voting. I was not expecting 2/3 though. I thought it was either going to be like 100% or 0%. I wasn't expecting it to be like this. These are interesting results. What is this? There's another article here. So that's a gaming one. Okay, so it looks like about 2/3 of you would say yes, you would get CXMT memory. If you didn't have 96 gigabyte SK Hynix. You know, I was thinking the other day, I was just like, man, I was kicking myself for not buying that 256 gigabyte G-Skill Trident Z. Remember that weird memory kit? The big memory kit, 4 sticks, 256 gigs with RGB. It was DDR5 6000. I think it was DDR5 6000 or 64. I think it was 6000. G-Skill. And it was like $650 at somewhere around there, like $600 to $700 at launch a year ago. And now that dream is completely eradicated. It'll never happen now. It'll never happen now. Because by the time, I'm thinking by the time memory goes back to normal in the Western markets, DDR6 will be out. And we'll have to wait for DDR6 pricing to come down. So yeah, the hopes of me ever doing 256 gigabyte DDR5, that's all but evaporated at this point. Okay, so we're gonna end the poll. So it looks like about 2/3 of you voted yes. All right. Let's look at what do we want to talk about next? Intel. So quick thing about Intel. We've been talking about Intel a lot on this channel recently because of Nova Lake. But Intel's shot at fabricating Apple's A20 chip for the base iPhone 18 collapses as a credible leaker calls the original source a blowhard. Okay, I don't know if this is true. Maybe we should just skip this article because this is just a rumor. This sounds like rumor stuff. This is obviously not true. Da, da, da. Well, the thing is, here's the thing. Apple is being incentivized to use Intel's fabrication instead of TSMC. There's a lot of advantages to doing that. First of all, TSMC's prices have gone through the roof in the last 4 years alone. So Intel could offer a competitive price compared to TSMC. And Intel has capacity. TSMC has like no capacity because they're constantly sold out. That's why they're charging so much money. However, if there's a problem, like if Intel's not capable of meeting the expectations that Apple has for the standards and the quality of how their chip should come out and perform, then Apple will still end up going with TSMC. I would assume that's the case. That's kind of what this article is sort of hinting at. But there's a lot of things you got to read between the lines here that are not exactly well known. Number one, Intel is technically state-owned by the U.S. government, so the U.S. government props them up, which means the U.S. government can kind of reverse lobby Apple in the same way Apple is lobbying the U.S. government to allow them to use CXMT, Chinese memory, in their iPhones and their MacBooks and all that stuff. So the U.S. government can come back and be like, hey, okay, we'll let you get the Chinese memory, but you gotta use Intel's fabs to build your stuff, your next gen chips. So there's some back and forth that could be taking place like that. The discussions could be like that. The U.S. government can definitely try to put pressure for them to favor Intel. Intel obviously is going to try to win the business, but Intel has to do. They just have to do a good job. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, you can't underperform, right? Like, why would? Because Apple's not going to make their product be bad. Like, that's not going to happen. That they care about their brand image more than anything. So, we'll see what happens here. I mean, to me, it doesn't really matter because I don't have an iPhone, so it's like I don't have any Apple products, so I don't really. It doesn't really affect me in terms of what happens here. But that's just something that I found interesting because I know Intel has been trying really, really hard for the last 2 years to try to get customers for their 18 angstrom node, and there was talk of them getting potentially Nvidia and AMD. AMD, they could end up leveraging Intel for some of their IoT chips that go in the embedded market and the industrial market. So not so much like CPUs that go in laptops and stuff, but like other devices like firewalls and, IT things. Intel has a network division, but Intel doesn't do like firewalls and stuff. They might put CPUs that end up in firewalls, but that's a whole different discussion. So anyway, that is. Oh, there's another Xbox one. Okay, we're gonna talk about Xbox soon. Yeah, we'll talk about Xbox. Who here wants to talk about Xbox? Or do we want to talk about this PS5 thing real quick? What is this PS5 Pro delivers the best experience in Assassin's Creed Black Flag resynced as it runs ray traced visuals at 60 FPS. So I don't know what that statement, like, I don't know what this implies. Like, does this mean that Assassin's Creed Black Flag is super, super hard to run when you turn on ray tracing? And apparently PS5 Pro is so good that it can, like, run it smooth or something? Anyway, this is just some random article. So let's move on. Let's talk about Xbox now. All right. So the biggest announcement this week in the tech news category, this is kind of gaming adjacent. It pertains to Xbox. Microsoft's Xbox division announced significant changes, the biggest changes that we have ever seen from Xbox in the last, what feels like 20 years of Xbox, was announced this week. They're basically laying off almost 5,000 employees. I think the total number is somewhere around 4,800 individuals will be losing their jobs. They'll be out of a job. So and most of it is going to be gaming companies that they basically, you got to go and look at what Asha Sharma said. She said something like they're losing like 64 cents for every dollar, or they're making back 64 cents for every dollar they spent to acquire those studios. So, meaning none of it's been profitable. They've been basically hemorrhaging money for the last several years now, basically since the Xbox Series X generation began. Xbox has been losing money. Xbox, under Phil Spencer, Xbox was trying desperately to grow the business very laterally, very horizontally. They were trying to spread out and go, and the whole thing about Xbox everywhere. That was the slogan, Xbox everywhere. You have a PC? That's not a PC anymore. That's an Xbox. You have a Xbox console? That's an Xbox. Congratulations. You have a tablet, a Microsoft Surface, or whatever. That's an Xbox. So the idea was you can cloud stream your games. You can local stream your games. Then they try to go into mobile. Xbox Ally, Xbox Ally X. Don't buy Steam's handheld compared to Xbox. They were saying Xbox is so much better because it's got Windows, and it's Windows versus Linux. Why do you want Linux? Don't get Linux. Stay on Microsoft Xbox. It's so good. That was the whole marketing thing. And she revealed this week that 80% of the Xbox revenue comes from the console business, which means despite all of Phil Spencer's valiant efforts to grow the brand into all these different areas, handheld, cloud streaming, PC, Xbox on PC, Microsoft Store, all that stuff, all the integrations, all of that effort only managed to account for 20% of Xbox revenue. 80% was from the console itself. And that is very telling. That is very telling in a specific way. And the specific way is the fact that when you look at how Xbox has undersold, underperformed compared to its peers, namely PlayStation, Valve, Steam, because yes, Steam is basically, you can treat them like they're a console, especially now with the handheld and the Steam machine. So how they've compared to Steam, how they've compared to Sony with PlayStation, and I guess to a lesser degree how they've compared to Nintendo with the Switch and the Switch 2. So when you look at that, Xbox is a smaller percent of the market, and yet 80% of all the revenue is coming from their underperforming consoles. That means that they're not bringing in the money. They're not bringing in the amount of money that they should be bringing in to sustain all the investments that they put forth in acquiring all these game studios over and over and over again. That's why when she said they're getting 64 cents for every dollar they spent on these game companies. You know what that means? That means they're losing money. And you know what that means? That means it's time to lay off some people. That's the sad reality of what happens when the business fails to perform to the expectations that it should be able to achieve. Like, it's not achieving the goals that it should be able to achieve. So it's just not, something is wrong. Something is fundamentally wrong. And, you know, when I heard the whole 64 cents for every $1, when I heard that, I immediately thought, you know, the other day I was playing Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Where is that Grand Blue Fantasy Relink? Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. I was playing this game. And I was thinking, is this on Xbox? I don't think it is. Is it? Okay, it is. It is? No, it's not. Is it? It's funny because Google's AI says it is. This review from WCCF Tech mentions Xbox, but I don't think it's actually on Xbox. I don't think it's on Xbox. I think this is... Man, whoever wrote this review needs to go and delete the Xbox part of this, because I don't think this thing's on Xbox. I don't think this game's on Xbox. Yeah, AI literally contradicts itself, because I did a Google search. I said, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink Xbox. And then the first thing it says is, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is available on Xbox Series X and S. And then I scroll down a little bit, and then there's like a question, is Grand Blue... And it's like, is Grand Blue Relink on Xbox Game Pass? It's like, Grand Blue Relink is not available on Xbox Game Pass. The game has not been released for the Xbox console. So yeah, so it's not on the Xbox. They need to get rid of that, because that's really bad. That kind of makes this reviewer look like they don't know what they're doing if they labeled Xbox as a platform for this game and it's actually not on the game, or the game's not on the platform. So that's a big no-no for the review here. But I was thinking, this embodies an example of what is wrong with Xbox. And I'm using a specific example here of a multi-platform game. So this game is available on every platform except Xbox. It's on Switch 2 as of yesterday. So Nintendo can check mark, we have the game. PlayStation has had the game for 2 years, and Steam has had the game for 2 years. So... And now the expansion's out 2 years later. So why is it that Xbox, for some weird reason, just doesn't have these games that other platforms manage to get? Like, I don't understand why this happens to them. Why does this happen to them and it doesn't happen to, like, Steam or Nintendo? Okay, well, obviously Nintendo didn't get the game because the Switch is so weak that it can't run the game. But the Switch 2 can run the game, and that's why now all of a sudden there's a Switch 2 version. But why doesn't Xbox have this game? Like, I don't understand what's going on there. So this is just an example, and this is just one example of problems with Xbox. Like, the incompetence of whoever's running the show. Like, they're missing all these revenue generators. Like, I don't understand. And I don't know, like, okay, so they're just basically handing it to Steam. They're handing it to Steam. Like, the strategy, I thought the strategy was Xbox on PC, Xbox on console, Xbox on mobile, Xbox everywhere. But if you can't even, like, if the game's not available on PC through Xbox, you're basically giving the revenue over to Valve. Like, what? That's basically what happened. Like, I mean, that's one example. This is a really good example because it's a recent example. This game literally came out yesterday. So, Wow. Okay, and then what was another good example? Another example is when they acquire a game studio and then they just completely mismanage the game studio. Like they buy up, they pay millions or billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to buy some game company. And then what happens to the game company? Like, so upper management from Microsoft or whoever comes in, they're like, oh, make a game that is like this because we think it will sell. Not what you guys think is good. No, do this because this is better. And then they find out like 2 years into the project that no, it's not viable. Cancel the project, start on something else. So the game never comes out and they just start over again. So they basically waste a bunch of resources internally doing stuff. And it just never goes anywhere. And then what happens is you lay off all the people because nothing comes of it. So, I mean, there's a reason why I was thinking about this back on this past Tuesday. It's like, okay, I have an Xbox Series X, but I only bought one like very, very late into this console generation. I bought my Xbox Series X back in December of last year, or was it January of the? I think it was like right after New Year's Day. Best Buy had a $50 off sale, and I had like a Best Buy reward thing on my Best Buy card, so I was able to basically get the Series X for just under what the original MSRP was. And it's kind of sad because it's like you got to do all that savings shenanigans just to get it to match the retail launch price, even though we're like 5 years in to the generation and the price is higher than it was at launch. So, but that's whatever. We all know the reasons for that. Or maybe we don't know the reasons for that because Xbox decided to raise the price arbitrarily last year before the memory shortages. I think it was like last summer, and then they did it again. But okay, the excuse is the memory. So, PlayStation did the exact same thing. So I guess that's the excuse now. But I don't know if that was the excuse a year ago because Xbox was the one to go and raise the price before the memory shortages happened. So it's just, man, I don't know. It's like there's so many fundamental problems. There was another one I was thinking of. I just forgot what it was. I wanted to say something about Xbox strategy. Well, there's another thing too, like the lack of games. Like I'll just use myself as an example. I do have that Xbox Series X, but what do I use the Xbox Series X for? Most of what I actually use it for is old Xbox 360 games that are upscaled, or original Xbox games via backwards compatibility. So, that's kind of what I mostly like. I haven't purchased a single Xbox Series X game. Like, not a single one. And here's the crazy thing. Forza Horizon 6 is like, it is like the game. I guess the one other game this year from Microsoft is going to be Halo 1 remake. But let's be honest here. Forza Horizon 6 is the that's the big AAA live service, blockbuster, big game for Microsoft this year alone. And when it came time for me to get that game, the choices were the Xbox Everywhere, Series X, or Steam. And what did I end up? Who did I end up choosing? I ended up choosing Steam. Oh yeah, I bought Microsoft's crown and jewel game of 2026 on their competitor's platform. Because it's weird, but it's like you think about it. If you get Forza Horizon 6 via Steam as opposed to Xbox, you gain the ability to play it on Steam Deck. You gain the ability to play it on a Linux gaming PC, as well as a Windows gaming PC. So their competitor's platform allows the game, strangely enough, to be more accessible than on their own first-party platform. That is bizarro world to me. Like, just thinking about that. That is bizarre. So that's another example, man. And I've been trying so hard to think, like, how can we make Xbox so great that these other companies like Valve and Sony and they don't stand a chance. Well, I have no idea. I have no idea how to dig them out of this hole because it's been so badly mismanaged, and unfortunately, I said this back in when did I say it's April. Things are going to get worse before they get better for Microsoft. And Asha Sharma came in and is now cleaning house, fixing all the things. They got to get all the financials. That means you got to cut all these people out of the company, you know, and some of that's tragic. Some of that, I don't know if it's justified. I mean, I guess it has to be justified from a business point of view. But it's kind of sad to see, man, because now you've got you literally have like nearly 5,000 people that are out of a job, and the market, the gaming industry cannot immediately or easily absorb 5,000 people. So that means some of those developers are going to have to go and do other things. They're going to have to go work as a software developer for a non-gaming company or go work for like a bank or something. You know, that's usually what developers do when they're out of a job. So it's very unfortunate that those people are in that situation right now due to poor decisions by the higher ups. But we've seen this story from time to time, and that's just what it is. Steam should buy Xbox from Microsoft. How would that benefit Valve though? Like, how does that benefit them? Why would why would Valve spend potentially $1 billion on Xbox? I don't know what the market value is of Xbox, but it's definitely in the triple digit millions, I can tell you that. Because you're talking about a lot of IP, but yeah, it was a joke. Okay. Yeah, but it was an interesting thought when you think about it though. Like what if somebody bought Xbox? So, I'll tell you who could buy Xbox. Valve would never do that. But you know who could? Who do you guys think could actually buy the Xbox brand from Microsoft and actually potentially turn it around? You got to think outside the box for this one. No, no, no. Sony and Apple are they're wrong. You're going the wrong. Amazon, no. No, they don't want Xbox. You got to think outside the box, guys. No, Sega can't afford them. No way. You guys are way off the mark. But you're getting closer. When you mention Sega, you're actually getting a little bit closer. But you're looking at a company that's in the wrong country. I'll give you a hint. No American company and no Japanese company would buy Xbox. I think that might be a dead giveaway of now who it would be. Tencent. Tencent. Tencent, or maybe Alibaba or somebody. Tencent, one of those Chinese juggernauts in the East. They could buy Xbox and they could respin it and they could fix it. Because they have, from my point of view, Tencent has the talent, not only the talent to make the games, they also have the talent to make the correct financial business decisions. And that is the key because Microsoft made all the wrong business decisions. So if Microsoft were to sell Xbox, because basically Microsoft mismanaged Xbox. So what do? Okay, sell it to Tencent. If Tencent buys Xbox, now Tencent's the one making the decisions on what to do with Xbox. Yeah, that could be scary because Tencent, with a brand like Xbox and their marketing capabilities, their developer capabilities, their management capabilities, they are like one of the few companies on the planet that could potentially give even Valve a run for its money. So the power level of Tencent is insane. The amount of stuff that they own behind the scenes and the things that they fund behind the scenes. So I mean, I think Tencent is behind like all the really big games. Doesn't Tencent own Riot Games? Don't they own Riot Games? Riot Games is entirely owned, according to AI, Riot Games is entirely owned by Tencent, a Chinese multinational technology and entertainment conglomerate. First of all, I didn't even know they were a conglomerate. I thought they were a company. They're not a company, they're a conglomerate. That means they're like Samsung big. Like that's big. So that's big, that's scary. That they are way bigger than Valve. So if these guys bought up Xbox, oh man, watch out, man. Watch out, Valve. Watch out, Steam. If they own the data centers, they can start raising the data center costs on Steam, on Valve, on stuff like that, man. You know, they could do some. If they're competing directly with them, because they're not competing with them right now. I'm just saying hypothetically, if they start competing, if they have Xbox and they're competing with Valve, oh man, they're gonna make Valve's lives miserable. Because it's fierce. It's fierce. These guys in the West, they have no idea, man. They have no idea. Alright, so... But this is all hypothetical. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I would think that Microsoft is going to double down and try to turn the ship around and improve Xbox. But that is some scary stuff if something like that were to happen. Well, I say scary stuff. It's an exaggeration. But, yeah, Tencent owns, I think, I don't know what percent of the gaming industry actually belongs to Tencent. Outside of things like FIFA is not part of Tencent, but I know like all the really big live service games, League of Legends, Valorant, like basically anything that Riot does belongs to Tencent. And then they've got all those Chinese games too. All Steam. You keep saying Steam. I think you mean Valve. But yeah. Steam needs to make another Half-Life game. They're not gonna do that because they're too busy in their. See, that's part of the reason. That's one of the negatives. Okay, being a private company is a good and a bad thing. The good thing is that you're not at the mercy of public opinion and shareholders, particularly the latter. So Valve is a privately owned company. That means no one can vote and say what they can and cannot do. So they're basically free to do whatever projects they want to do. But right now, if you look at all what they actually do, they're so heavily focused on trying to build out like a hardware platform, like a gaming platform. Like where Microsoft was so busy on going cloud and like spreading Xbox to all these different areas, Valve is trying to focus on building a specific platform. They're trying to grow what was originally the Orange Box project or the Steam Box, and now they have the Steam Machine, and they started with the Steam Deck. So they're kind of moving. They're trying to create like their own ecosystem that's more than just a client application that you download and install. So that's really what a lot of their efforts have been in the last 5 to 7 years now. So, because I remember when Orange Box project first came out, like the Steam Box was a thing that you could technically have built more than a decade ago. I want to say it was like 2014, 2015, 2013, somewhere around there was when the concept of having a dedicated gaming PC, well, not even a gaming PC, like an actual gaming box that was really like a console, but you put it together by just basically building a PC and you load Steam's OS at the time. I don't know if it was called Steam OS back then because this is more than 10 years ago. But I remember when that was a thing. It's been out for a while. This is not new. The whole thing about the Steam Machine is not a new concept from Valve. It's just this. It took them a long time to figure out what is like a good common denominator in terms of hardware requirements that we can piece together and then put that out in the market as something that consumers can use to basically play games, um, as an alternative to the existing solutions from the console guys or a dedicated PC, which sometimes, so when you say PC, the PC has lots of different meanings. There's a lot of PCs that can't really play games, they're just office PCs. And then you have like really expensive high-end gaming PCs. But the keyword is really high expensive gaming PCs. That was never part of their original mission to do that. They wanted to make something that was more approachable, more accessible. That's the keyword, accessible and affordable. Now, unfortunately, we know what happened with the Steam machine because of memory, because of flash storage. They weren't able to get that price point down where it needed to be. So, I mean, that's just kind of what it is. But if we were living in a different time or an alternate reality where there was not this weird memory shortage, I think the Steam machine could have been pretty successful. But it's just unfortunate. It kind of flopped because of what happened with the price points. And the sad thing is the price points of the Steam machine are going to create a precedence that other console brands can go and try to like use those price points for their future generation consoles. So and that's gonna have ripple effects that drive the price up for everything else too. So like graphics cards, the next generation of graphics cards could end up being way more expensive than the current generation of graphics cards, all because of all this other stuff with consoles. So that's why I always tell people it's like even if you don't game on consoles, you should at least be aware of the effects that consoles have on the market because that kind of sets your average baseline point and it only really goes up from there. So if the consoles start really, really expensive, you can expect like individual computer parts like GPUs to be even more expensive. So because it just ends up being they're able to get away with it. That's just how it's always been. Um, so we'll see what happens. It looks like it, man, it had a pretty good engine too. Okay, it says here as Unreal Engine dominance is set to grip the industry. So, wow, this is crazy. It says key positions were cut and entire teams were decimated. This included the team in charge of id Tech, the studio's long-standing proprietary game engine for the Doom franchise. Sources said one employee that the team, only one employee on that team is left. What do they do? Do they keep an actual like a individual employee? Or do they keep a manager or something? I mean, what do they do? They lay off everybody, all the workers. They only kept the manager. Wow, I don't know what who's actually left behind, but man, this is that's crazy. But I had a feeling something like this would happen sooner or later. Once she took over, she was gonna change things. This gutting of the id Tech team is tragic. Not only talented experts have lost their jobs, but also the single person left on the team will be unable to patch and update the engine without having to call back those who have been laid off with the knowledge required. So wait, so is the person left behind just a manager? It sounds like the person left behind is a manager. If they have to call up the people that got laid off because they don't know how to, the institutional knowledge is just not there. id Tech as a technology is probably dead forever. Wow. Wow, man. Doom, The Dark Ages, and Indiana Jones and The Great Circle. Wow. Doom Eternal still stands as an example of superb optimization. Wow. And that's just one, right? Wow. That's crazy. He's a finance guy? Oh, they kept the finance guy from id Tech? Man. That's crazy. I was thinking of that one quote, the one line from King Theoden in Lord of the Rings, The Return of the Day, a sad day, a red day, or something like that. You know, before they were going to do the charge against Sauron's forces to free Minas Tirith. It was like a sad day, a red day. It's like all these people, all the developers, they let go, man. All of them. Wow. So I don't know what this means. Uh, 4,800 is a lot, but there's, it's not the end of the world for them. These guys made great games like Doom: The Dark Ages, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Doom Eternal. The Doom franchise, if id Tech is basically gone, does that mean the Doom franchise is effectively gone? Doom has been around forever, man. Doom is like one of the games from like the early days of 3D graphics. We're talking like what, mid 90s with the original Doom? It's like 90s era, isn't it? I'm trying to remember what year that was. It was before I played games, but it's like 90s. The last real technical hurdles were made around Doom 3. Wasn't Doom 3 original Xbox? Wow. Xbox. What will happen to Xbox though? Because, I mean, okay, Xbox is not going away. But what do you think is going to happen? What do you guys think is going to happen to Xbox? Like, where do they go from here? That's what I'm curious to know. Because I'm not the type of person that can come in and be like, oh, I know this studio should work on this game, that studio should work on that game. Because I don't know first of all, I don't know what studios are left behind. And I haven't actually paid that much attention to Xbox's different game studios in several years. I know the studio that makes the Forza Horizon series is really good, but I don't know who else is still really good. I do feel like the Halo franchise is one of those that has been living in the glory of its former days. It's basically, like I haven't really have we gotten a really good Halo game in the last, like, how does Halo Infinite compare to the other Halo games? I always thought that Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, and Halo ODST were like the best Halo games. After ODST, it started going downhill slowly. Am I right? You guys tell me if I'm correct on that statement, because I've always felt like Halo kind of peaked around like the Halo 2, Halo 3 era, and then it just kind of like flatlined and then started going down. But man, they got to do something about this. Like Gears, Gears is another one that they've got, but I feel like okay, Halo 3 is better than Halo 2, is better than Halo 1, Halo Reach, Halo ODST, Halo Infinite, Halo 4, Halo 5. Yeah, see, that's why. Notice how I said after Halo 3. That's because Halo 4 was not that good. Halo 4, Halo 5. Halo 4, Halo 5 are at the bottom, man. And Halo Infinite's only just right above them. And Halo Infinite's like the most recent one. So, yeah, that kind of proves my point. Halo 3, Halo, yeah, basically ODST, because you could draw it out. It's kind of like a pyramid, like ODST, and then it just kind of goes down, and then this is the ramp up from from the first Halo, up to Halo 3, and then at ODST, then it starts going down. Well, it went down and then it went a little bit up. It's like, oh man. Which year was Halo Reach though? Which year was Halo Reach? Because wasn't ODST 2008? Halo Infinite, only the multiplayer and content in the campaign. 2010 was Halo Reach. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Xbox 360 era. After Xbox 360 era, the Halo games started going down in terms of how they compare to their previous games. I mean, I don't know how much of it is nostalgia though, and I don't know how much of this, in terms of like the ranking of the Halo games, is a generational difference. You know what I mean? Like if you take people who grew up with the Halo games during the height of Halo, around Halo 3, Xbox 360 era, and then you fast forward to like the Xbox One, Xbox One X, and the current Xbox Series X, and the games that younger people, like the Gen Z people, they experience Halo as their first Halo experience, where the games that you guys are saying are not as good as the older Halo games. So I don't know how much of that is skewed to nostalgia or skewed to it's like older gamers knowing how good it was in the 7th generation, which was the golden age of gaming because it was so widespread at that point compared to how it was in previous generations. Even though it can be said that the games in the 90s and the 2000s were when gaming was still very experimental and very innovative, and there were still people like developers doing things that were like a one of a kind first time to market. With PS4, Xbox One, and the current generation, there's a lot of this, you know, been there, done that. You know, it doesn't feel like a novel game anymore. It's harder to stand out because a lot of modern games are based off of game mechanics that were invented in previous generations. So I don't know how much of that factors into it. If it even factors into it at all. But it does seem like we might not see some of these old classic franchises like Doom for a long time, if at all, in the future, with stuff like this happening. I mean, it's possible the id Tech team can go and get absorbed by some other publishing company somewhere, or some other developer company could basically take them on. But, you know, they're going to have to do what that company wants them to build. So that doesn't necessarily equate to a Doom game. I mean, I've seen this happen with a lot of smaller developers because remember when Itagaki left Koei Tecmo, he he went off and did his own game without his original employer was just a shadow of the former glory of what he was able to create in his earlier years as a developer. And I'll give you another example. Another example would be Hideo Kojima. You know, when he left Konami after Metal Gear Solid 5, and there was like a whole controversy around that, but we're not going to dive into that on this stream. He went off and he started making like, some people describe a lot of his current games as like interactive movies because he would feature like real world actors. You know, so the Death Stranding games, Death Stranding 1, Death Stranding 2, he had all these like actual actors in his games. So it's kind of like a film in that regard. And I've heard a lot of people say that ever since he left Konami, he probably should have started getting into making movies instead of making games because he probably would make really good film. But you know, his games still do good. I don't think they sell as well as the Metal Gear Solid games did back when he was at Konami. So the reason why I'm saying this is because you look at this announcement with id Tech getting basically obliterated, you know, from all these layoffs. So it's like, yeah, they can come together and make their own company or whatever. And it's like, but is it really going to truly be as great as it was? Maybe it could. Maybe it could basically become pure id Tech and they can do their thing. But if they belong to Xbox, there's all kinds of weird problems with patents and who owns what and all this stuff. So they might not even have access to the id Tech engine anymore, like legally, because Microsoft probably owns all of that. So, that's why I'm saying, like, with this sort of announcement, that's why in this article they're saying that Doom is effectively dead as a franchise because of this. Yeah, that's kind of what they're reading between the lines here. It's like, okay, well, you don't have your engine anymore because Microsoft owns it, and your whole entire studio's gone except for one person. So now what do you do? Like, it's basically breaking up the band. Everybody goes their separate ways. These developers might go work for a bank. These might work for like some AI company. These guys might go work for Sony or whatever. Who knows? Like, it's gonna, that's realistically what'll probably happen. Because no single place is gonna be able to take in, thousands of people all at once. This is not how this works. So it is what it is. What happened to Bungie? Destiny is shutting down? Wait, what? Destiny is shutting down? Huh? That wasn't announced with Microsoft's decision to lay off all the people? Huh? Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. The game industry, so much bad news surrounding the game industry this year. I don't know. Okay, we talked about Intel and Apple. We talked about Xbox. What is this? AMD prepares Zen 6 Epic CPUs for July. Confirms AMD's Mark Paper Master. Yeah, so we know that the data center, Zen 6 is going to data center later this year. So the consumer version will probably. So the earliest we could see Zen 6 on desktop would be the end of the year. Realistically, it'll probably be next year. My guess is it'll be Q1. It'll be like March of next year or somewhere around there, or April, May. That seems like a realistic window because AMD has launched CPUs in that window many, many times in the past. Only for Zen 4 and Zen 5 did they do this weird like Q3 thing. So they normally never launch. Actually, so they launched. No, I take that back. They did launch Zen 3 in the fall, and then Zen 4 was like September. Zen 5 was August. So yeah, they've been doing summer, late summer, early fall CPU launches for several years, several generations now. But they used to do a lot of them in the spring. Like Zen 1 was March. And what's interesting is they would do like X3D CPUs in the spring. Like the 7950 X3D, the 7900 X3D, the 7800 X3D, all of those. The 5800 X3D was also in the spring. So they basically would do all their X3D. Even last spring, they did 9950 X3D, 9900 X3D. The only exception to the rule was 9800 X3D. They launched that one early. I still believe that they launched that early. Just so they had it out there. Because, like, Intel, like, they launched Zen 5. Intel launched their Arrow Lake. And then they're like, okay, well, the Zen 5 and Arrow Lake are basically the same. So AMD was like, well, wait a minute. Let's just go ahead and launch 9800 X3D because it beats all these. It beats our Zen 5. It beats Intel. It beats all of them in gaming. So just go put it out there. But they still ended up launching, like, the big ones, like the 16 core in the spring of the following year, which was last year. So they could end up just doing the full Zen 6 launch in the spring of next year. I don't know. It just kind of depends on what they're doing with their chip allocation, because you guys know how AI has basically created a big problem, and now the other problem is like CPUs are now in demand all of a sudden, because who would have thought AI needs CPUs in addition to memory? It needs CPUs. Who would have thought you actually need CPUs to do AI? So they're putting all their Zen 6 silicon into data center products first. So that means consumers will end up getting the desktop version after this. So this could come this year. I just don't know if it will. Nova Lake was probably going to come in October, though. I would expect Intel's Nova Lake to be in October of this year. So that one I'm fairly confident on the launch for Nova Lake. But for Zen 6, I don't know. With this announcement of Epic going to data center first with Zen 6, who knows what that means? That could mean like it's going to be, December, or it's going to be March or whatever, February or through May, somewhere. It's like a pretty wide window because of an announcement like this. So, but this does prove that Zen 6 is completed because they're launching in data center. The core design, the cache, all that stuff is already done. So they're probably already mass producing all the Zen 6 cores now and determining what different SKUs they're going to sell them as, whether it's Epic or Ryzen. Okay. And this goes into the... Oh, yeah, you actually did a thing at AMD Rise Summit. Okay. So, yeah. Okay, well, that's some hardware news. What is this? AMD Ryzen becomes the top CPU choice, while Radeon powers one in every 3 desktop game PCs sold at Micro Center. I don't know how true this is. Is this really that true? Because I don't know if I can believe the CPU thing. Because every time I go to Micro Center, I always see a Ryzen CPU in the checkout cage, which means someone's buying a Ryzen system, but I don't always see a Radeon GPU. I almost always see a GeForce GPU paired up with a Ryzen CPU. So I don't know if I believe this. Radeon GPUs become the top choices for gamers at Micro Center. I mean, maybe because they're way more affordable, I guess. But I don't think the Nvidia cards are like super overpriced right now. Maybe I'm wrong because I haven't been in the market for a GPU for a very long time. But I don't know. Yeah, this I can believe. Like the CPU stuff I can believe. But the GPU thing, like, okay, it says here, wait, who's quoting? What is this from? Today, AMD holds a leading position in gaming desktop CPUs at Micro Center. That leadership position reflects... Why is this spelled the British way? That leadership position reflects years of innovation. It's supposed to be one word. That leadership position reflects years of innovation with Ryzen, the strength of the X3D, and the confidence our associates have when recommending AMD to enthusiasts. We're seeing similar momentum with Radeon. We launched the 9070 XT. Like, okay, almost a year and a half ago. It was one of the most exciting product launches we've seen in years. Customers showed up in full force. Yeah, I know. I was there. I was there, guys, on launch day. I got the 9070 XT on launch day from Micro Center. I stood in the line in the morning, and they sold out. It was a big line. So yeah, I believe them. The statement sounds true. I was there. I know it was real, but I'm not so sure about it being like number one. It was one of the most exciting product launches we've seen. Okay, yeah. And that momentum okay. When customers experience the full AMD platform, Ryzen, Radeon, yeah, but where's all the whatever happened to the Radeon, the AMD Advantage laptops? Ryzen and Radeon together, they recognize the performance. Okay, that's all good marketing stuff. So Micro Center highlights the strong performance of the Radeon. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's good GPU. I'm not trying to like trash talk it. The 9070 XT is a very good GPU. Um, it is actually a really good price for a gaming GPU. So I can kind of believe it, but the only way I can see it truly being the best seller is if there's just no NVIDIA GPUs in stock, because people are buying NVIDIA GPUs for AI. I've had a bunch of people come to me and ask me which NVIDIA GPU to buy for AI, and I told them buy the 12 gig 60 class series GPU, or buy a used RTX 3090 Ti. The 3090 Ti is like really, really good for AI right now. So it's kind of weird because it's like all the Nvidia cards right now, if they've got the magic 24 gigs of VRAM, they are so in demand right now for AI. It's not even funny. Like there's been a bunch of people that keep wanting to buy my 3090 Ti from me because it has 24 gigs of VRAM and it's a Founders Edition. But it's like, no, man, go get a used one off of somewhere like Newegg or something if you want a 3090 Ti. 3090 is also okay. The problem with 3090 though, and we've talked about this before, 3090 has RAM chips on the back of the PCB. So most likely, if it was used for crypto mining back in the pandemic years, the memory could end up artifacting and corrupting, and basically the AI will just get messed up because of that. And it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell because sometimes it's okay, and then it'll start manifesting after like running for a couple of hours. So as artifacting and errors on the VRAM. So for that reason, I don't recommend 3090. But 3090 Ti is good because they use the clamshell RAM, so all the RAM chips are on the side of the PCB that has the Unisync and the fans. There's no Super 5080. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no 5080 Super. You're still a believer in 5070 Ti? Well, yeah, 5070 Ti is really the only good NVIDIA out of all the 50 series cards. The only good one in terms of the value is the 5070 Ti. And we've known this ever since the 50 series cards started coming out last year. So yeah, the 5070 Ti is the good one. But that one, I don't know. I think that one was really, really good last year in terms of the price point, but the price points have gone up. So it's not even like it's that great at the amount of money that it's being priced at. That's the problem. So the biggest problem the 5070 Ti has is 16 gigs of VRAM. So the good thing about 16 gigs of VRAM is that you don't have to worry about AI people trying to buy up all the 5070 Tis. They're not going to do it because they don't care. The 5070 Ti is a 16 gigabyte graphics card. So it is literally invisible to the AI people. Like AI crew, they're looking for 24 gigs or more. Ideally, they want 32 gigs. But 32 gigs is very expensive. So they go to 24 gigs because they can get used 24 gigs like 3090 Ti or 4090 for a good price. But the problem with the 4090 is they're very hard to find because the people who have 4090 typically aren't getting rid of it. They're not selling them. They're holding on to their 4090s. And it's really annoying the AI crew. The AI crew is like, "Hey man, why aren't you selling me your 4090?" And then the 4090 guy is like, because I don't want to. I want to keep it. It's my GPU. I'm not going to sell it. It's still like the second fastest GPU for gaming." And then they're like, the counter argument is like, actually, it's the fourth fastest graphics card for gaming because the RTX Pro 6000 is the fastest, and the the RTX Pro Ada which is the 4090 Ti, is the third fastest, making the 4090 the fourth fastest GPU. So they're doing all these stupid like tactics to try to persuade people to sell their 4090s. And I know two people that did actually buy into that and sell their 4090s to AI people. And it's kind of sad because it's like, well, you know, one guy was telling me like he sold his 4090 because he was like, I quit gaming, so I don't need it anymore. So I was like, so what you do? I sold it to some guy who said he needs it for like AI, and I'm like, bruh. Oh man, these AI people, man, I tell you. So it's like 4090, man, going to AI is just sad. It's so sad because the 4090 is still such a very capable GPU. Seeing it go away to AI is just like 3090 Ti, man. 3090 Ti can go to AI because 3090 Ti is a gas guzzler. That thing takes a ton of power. It heats up the room like so fast. So yeah, go give that thing to AI. But 4090, man, selling 4090 into AI is just kind of like, wow, what are you doing? Man. But anyway, yeah, for the AMD cards though, 9070 XT is definitely really, really good. Like this is a really good graphics card. This is the graphics card that I use with my racing simulator for Forza Horizon 6 with the wheel and everything. And yeah, this thing is a really, really nice GPU. AMD always does like the what I call the mass market launch, and it's always the one that comes after the big launch, which is really strange, but AMD has a track record of doing this. So what do I mean by this? This is where we pivot to Paint, because we haven't used Paint all stream, and I feel like I should have been using Paint to illustrate some of those things with Microsoft earlier. So if you look at, let's do 2015, I guess. 2015, 2016, 17, 19, 20. We'll just skip some years here. 22. We're just gonna skip some years. Was it 2025? Was it 2025? Yeah, it was 2025. Okay, so AMD will do like the big GPU like this. They'll do like big flagship, and then they'll do the one that like everybody buys. The lower cost, you know, what I like to call the mass market GPU. The GPU that is meant to be manufactured in large volumes for a lot of gamers. So that was the RX 480 and the RX 470 in 2016. Literally a decade ago. June 29th, I think. If I remember the day, because I was there on the launch date at Micro Center, and I bought the reference XFX RX 480 with the backplate. The only one that had the backplate. So, yeah. This is the mass market GPU. So they'll do like big GPU that is low quantity, low volume. Then they'll do big, high volume, low BOM cost, mass market appeal. It does well in the reviews, and people end up buying a ton of these. So they'll do that. Okay, so the last time, so then we've come to 2017. They did the Vega. Then we go to 2019. They did this thing, which no one really cared about, and then they did this GPU, and this GPU was July 7th, 2019. July 7th, 2019. I believe it was July 7th. I could be wrong, but did I say 2019? 2019. Basically the same day that the Zen 2 CPUs launched. The world's first PCI Gen 4 graphics card with the world's first PCI Gen 4 motherboards, the X570 platform with Zen 2 in 2019. So this was kind of the successor in my mind, even though the price point was higher. This was really like the successor to the RX 480 in the sense that this was the GPU that would see large scale manufacturing, wide market adoption. They'd sell a ton of them. A lot of people would end up using these. And that has certainly held true for many years. Then in 2020, they did, you know, this. They did this. They did this. I think they did all of those. So then they put the really big GPU. And then no one could buy these because of scalpers in the pandemic. Then they did this. So what's interesting is, well, 2021, I guess I should have included 2021. 2021, yeah, I messed up. Let's just say 2021. Let's just, I don't know. I messed this up. We need more space. So in 2021, then we had 2022, and then we have 2025. 2024 is well, whatever. Just skip 2024 for a second. Okay, so 2021 was when they would do, you know, like this GPU and this GPU. So they would do these GPUs. So they would do kind of like the mass market, the mass market, the mass market. Meaning the ones that end up in a lot of pre-builds, the ones that end up in people's first gaming PC, you know, those type of GPUs. That's what I mean when I'm listing these GPUs. So, you know, 2022, they did, let's just leave off this for a second. So they did these. And then in 2023, they did, you know, like, this was 2023, or was it 4? I think it was 3. Yeah, it was 3. They did these in 20, was this 2024? I can't remember. Anyway, they would do it again in the odd number year. I'm pretty sure this is odd number. So they had this, they had this, they had these, they had these. So they had their mass market stuff. No, 6950 XT was 2022. I specifically left that one off because that's just a refresh, but that would be 2022. That was this with this with this. These are all 2022. These are like super cards that came out in the first part of the year, but then at the back half of the year they had the next generation. So, but just forget about the super cards for a second. So this was, I think, 2023, and then 24 had the 7600, or 24. No, I can't remember. Maybe 23 had all of these, and 24 had the weird. I think 24 had the 7600. Okay, yeah. So 23. This was 2023. This was 2023. 2024 had like nothing. 2024 was the one that had the weird, like, it had this one. And then this was, but you know, this is not what I'm trying to talk about. I'm basically saying that the odd numbered years, well, except for this one. Although I guess technically the 500 series was here. But again, this is like super, it's like refresh. So, you know, realistically, it's these, this. And then we come to 2025. In 2025, this one, 9070 XT, 9070. 9070, 9060 XT, 9060. So all this stuff. basically. Let's clean this up. Whatever, just get rid of this. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. The point that I'm trying to make is that AMD's the cards that AMD launches that are like not supposed to be flagship GPUs tend to be the really good GPUs. The GPUs that people buy for a gaming PC and they hold on to these GPUs for many, many years. So there's people that are still using RX 480. I don't know what type of games they play besides League of Legends, but they're still using RX 480. And they're probably playing on 1080p. And there's people that are doing the same thing with the 5700, the 5700 XT. There's a ton of people that are still using the 6700 XT, the 6600 XT. And then today, you've got people that are using 9070, 9060, all that stuff. So that's kind of the track record that Radeon has in terms of what actually ends up selling. Like what does the average gamer who ends up with a Radeon graphics card actually end up using? It's typically these mid-range graphics cards that are a lot more affordable than the flagship options. Now 9070 XT, this is the reason why it's doing so well, is because 9070 XT is basically providing 1440p gaming for the average gamer in a market where right now, like if you want to get 1440p gaming on nvidia, you're looking at like 900, on average around $900 spend if you want to do the same thing on nvidia. So 97, that's the reason why 9070 XT is selling so well. Allegedly, according to that article from WCCF Tech, 9070 XT is selling so good at Micro Center. The next flagship, well, if you look at the track record, it should be next year because it's supposed to be on the odd numbered years. But because of the way things have gotten with AI, you might be right. Maybe we're looking at 2028 for the common man GPU, you know, like the successor to the 9070 XT. Maybe that will be 2028, if not late next year. But 1440p gaming, basically 9070 XT equals 1440p gaming. This is what I consider 1440p gaming. So on the NVIDIA cards, I consider 4080 equals 4. Okay, well we'll use the new stuff. So 5070 Ti equals 1440p gaming. So these are really the pinnacle of gaming for the 1440p. So, and it's like, okay, you got to look at like what is the value proposition of this? Like, actually, hold on, we need to get some examples here because I don't have any examples. Let's look at some of these GPUs. Let's look at let's just pull up one of these real quick. Okay. Here, hold on, let's just get some just pick whatever the first one on the list. Okay, let's take a look at this. Oh. Okay, so here's one. I just picked the first one that I saw on the list. So Power Color AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT Reaper triple fan 16 gigabyte. That means don't worry about the AI people because they're not interested in 16 gigs. I can tell you that right now. GDDR6 PCI 5.0 GPU, $670. $670. So it's actually not that much more than it was at launch. Because at launch, I think it was $600 or so for this particular model, the Reaper. So, yeah, man. I mean, that's pretty good. 1440p gaming for the price of what used to be almost the price of the launch price of the PS5 Pro. But this thing outperforms a PS5 Pro at 1440p gaming. Native 1440p gaming. So let's look at the equivalent NVIDIA. So the equivalent NVIDIA is the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070 Ti. Okay, this is just the gigabyte one. So 1,000. Wait, $1,000. $1,000. Wait, really? Yeah. See, okay. This man, if that's it, $1,000, no RGB, no RGB, $1,000, and there's no RGB, and it has a stupid connector. So yeah, I mean, I can kind of see now the appeal of the Radeon card because it's like, it's like, okay, this is 1,000, this is 670. That's $330 less money, and I don't have to deal with this stupid connector. Although to be fair, this connector on this GPU is not really a problem. But if you don't have a power supply that has the native cable, uh now it's like, oh, now I gotta go use that octopus cable adapter thing that everyone keeps telling me not to use because it's gonna catch fire. Now, granted, this GPU doesn't pull enough electricity where that should not be a problem. A knock on wood, that should not catch on fire on a 5070 Ti. I mean, I personally have not heard of 5070 Ti catching on fire, but it still uses that stupid connector, unfortunately. So I don't know why NVIDIA insists on using this connector on a GPU that doesn't pull the sort of wattage that would require that kind of connector. But anyway, so you're paying, what, $330 more for the same exact performance, same exact memory. Now, granted, this one's using GDDR7, which means that this will have more memory bandwidth in theory. And actually, yeah, technically, the theoretical numbers, this will have better memory bandwidth. But that way, they're able to cut down the number of shaders that they need. So, whereas this is using the older GDDR6. But at the end of the day, the VRAM is the most important spec on these graphics cards. So these are both 16 gigs. So it's like you're not really, like, you're paying 300. You're basically paying the amount of money that traditionally would put you well into the next tier. Well into the next tier. So think about that. So that's why, I don't know, man, at $1,000, that's not really worth it. So, yeah, I mean, at these price points, you gotta go with the Radeon card. So that article makes a lot of sense. So, and the thing is, you can game at 4K with this graphics card or this graphics card. You will have to rely on upscaling though for both graphics cards for 4K gaming. But I mean, I've done a lot of live streams in the past at 4K with the 9070 XT, and you can do it. It works. All right, so yeah, man, this is the same performance for like $300 more. Like, I ain't spending that $300 more. You could put that money into like a monitor, an OLED or something. So it's like, this is totally not worth it. All right, so that covers that. So yeah, GPUs, they're a thing. The AMD cards haven't actually gone up in price that much compared to the Nvidia ones. What reliable cable do you recommend for the stupid connector? The cable that comes with the power supply. So you should be using, if you are going to use this type of graphics card, you have to also buy, if you don't already have a power supply that has the native cable, you have to buy a power supply that has the native cable. You don't have to do that, but you asked me what I would do. You asked me what reliable cable do you recommend? I don't recommend any cable. I recommend buying a power supply that comes with the native 12 volt high power cable. That's what I would do. In fact, I've already done that. So on multiple occasions, on multiple different builds. So in fact, we did a build last November featuring a power supply that had 2 of those cables. So that's what I would do. Which technically means that not only do you have to spend, so it's like this is what, $999? This is $669 plus new power supply. If you don't already have a power supply that has the cable, you kind of need to buy one. So it's like, wow, okay, that's way more than $1,000 now. Like typically, I would buy like a 1000 watt or more. I mean, 5070 Ti can work with an 850, but if you're buying a power supply that has that cable, you're going to want either like 1000 to 1200 watt, because these are the ones that come with the heavy duty cables. Like if you want the heavy duty cable, you typically have to buy this type. Like the power supply has to be in this wattage range. Just saying. So the 5080 is not even that much faster than the 5070 Ti or the 9070 XT, so I don't agree with that at all. Would a Ryzen 5 2600 GTX 1080 512 GB NVMe, is this all used hardware? Are you talking about, I assume this is all used hardware. You're asking me if it's worth $500? I don't know. Like the one thing that I typically don't recommend buying used is storage drives, like NVMe drives, because you don't know how they were used. Like realistically, if you're buying from someone who was just using it as a gaming PC, then I guess $500 for that. I mean, in this market, I guess that's fair. You guys tell me, like, what do you guys think? This guy's saying, a Ryzen 5 2600. Hold on, so let's look at this. Ryzen 5 2600, GTX 1080, a 512 GB NVMe, 16 GB DDR4, 700 watt. Okay, the power supply is included. $512 GB NVMe, 16 GB DDR4. For $500? I mean, first of all, what are you gonna use this computer for? I feel like this isn't really. I mean, you can't really. We recently did a live stream with the GTX 1080. It doesn't really play games that well anymore. Like you can't really play like modern games with this GPU. Even at 1080p, it struggles So I don't know. This NVMe, I don't know how this NVMe, it's hard to tell because the amount of write cycles and read cycles, and if this NVMe was like sitting in a box in a closet for like 5+ years, who knows if it's, the charge on it might be all messed up. So because I've seen SSD, I know people who SSDs they left in a drawer for over 5 years, and then the SSD doesn't work anymore. It literally doesn't work. There's problems with it, so they can't use it. So I don't know how this was maintained. It could be totally fine, but I can tell you right now, this CPU is really, really weak for, like, you're not gonna be able to play like modern games with this CPU. You're not gonna be able to play. I mean, you'll be able to play like old games with both of these. Like you can play like esports games, like League of Legends and stuff like that. But yeah, no, this computer is not. I mean, $500. I don't know. Would I buy it at $500? No. Knowing what I know, knowing the games that I play, and the fact that I recently did a live stream featuring GTX 1080, and we saw what the performance was like. It's like, yeah, you can play games at like somewhere between 720p to 1080p, modern games like Pragmata and stuff, but you're gonna be like so VRAM limited. Because remember, this is also an 8 GB VRAM. This is an 8 GB VRAM. So I don't know. It just depends on the type of games. Oh, you're looking for a sell price. Oh, you're trying to sell it? You're trying to sell it, why are you trying to sell the power supply? Why aren't you keeping the power supply? But I don't know, man. I really don't think that this computer is you're not gonna be able to sell this for $500. You can probably sell it for like $400. Maybe $400 you could sell it. Is this 2 sticks of DDR4? Is this like 2x8, or is this a single 16 gig stick? Because I'll be honest with you, the 16 gig stick, if it's a single 16 gig stick, it'll actually command a better price than 2 8 gig sticks. Two X8, that's not going to command very much on the used market. So I don't know. Like, I don't think this is going to sell for a lot. The GPU is way too old. The CPU is also old. The CPU is really, I don't know, like, this is probably worth, like, if I was to price this right now in my head, just without looking at anything, I would think this is like at most $30. This is probably I don't know, like maybe 100 at most on the used market. This would be priced, what you said, this is new, so this is whatever it is. And then this is like, I would just say retail, whatever the going retail price is. Although you're not retail, so you're gonna have to be like under retail. It's like retail minus, it's like minus 15% or something, like somewhere around there. Retail minus 15%, and then 16 gigabyte 2x8 is whatever. I don't know what that would be. And then this is probably worth like, I don't know, like 50 on the used market, 60, 50, I don't know. I don't know, man. Well, if you manage to sell that for $400, then I guess whoever you're selling it to doesn't really know that much about computers. First and second gen, yeah. The reason why this is also kind of not good, isn't this not compatible officially with Windows 11? I mean, yeah, you can use Rufus and you can install Windows 11, but isn't this technically not supported for Windows 11? correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think this is Windows 11 compatible. Like officially Windows 11 compatible. You can make it work, but I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. I know first Ryzen 1000 definitely is not, but I don't know about 2000 because 2000 is Zen Plus. But first gen is definitely not Windows 11 compatible. Not officially Windows 11 compatible. You can get it to work. I think if you disable secure boot or something, and maybe, but then like I think games like Valorant won't work properly or something like that. Second gen made it. Okay, so okay. So I don't know. I kind of think. So what is this? This is 130. Whatever the RAM is, that's or whatever this is worth. It's probably this right here might even be worth like a 100 like $100. So that's like 230 plus whatever that is. So yeah, I think 400 is probably okay. I think 400 is okay. 500 is too much though. 3600, 70. Yeah, because the Zen 2 is like a lot better than the Zen Plus. So hold on, you're selling this? You didn't mention the motherboard. Are you just selling these with no motherboard? What's the motherboard? Because if there's no motherboard, then I mean, it is what it is. If there's a motherboard, it's gonna be worth more, because then you actually have a functioning computer. But without the motherboard, this is basically like a bunch of components. 300 to 350. Okay, well, whatever. I mean, I guess 400, around 400, I think is a fair price. So, okay. Um, I think that covers all the stuff that we were going to talk about. We're talking about Xbox. Um, PS6 is still. What do you guys think? Do you think that Xbox Helio is coming out next year? So here's the poll: is Xbox Helios coming out next year? Yes or no? You guys decide. Is it Helios? No? You don't think it's coming out next year? Did I spell it wrong? Helix? Oh, I spelled it wrong. Project Helix? Project Helix. Yes, Project Helix. Next gen Xbox. You guys think it's coming out next year? Wow, a lot of people are saying no. A lot of people are voting no. Why? Wow. If hmm. It is next year will be that time. It will be the time of the year. It'll be the time for Xbox to get the new one. Next gen Xbox, guys. Oh, did I? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I didn't know. Oh, man, see, that shows how much I pay attention to Xbox. That's pretty bad. Okay, so uh Project Helix is supposed to come out next year. It's supposed to. The question is, will it come out? A lot of people are saying no, but So PlayStation 6 launches November of next year. You'll see. But the one that I don't know is this one. I don't actually know when this is coming out. Like, I have no idea. I know this is coming out November next year, but I don't know about this thing. Like, I have no idea. Especially with the announcement that they're laying off all these people, and now these people are out of a job, and they have a new management. Basically, they've gone through an entire regime change. Phil Spencer's out. What was her name? Sarah Bond. She's out. So it's like you got all these new people now in charge, and the first thing they do is lay off all these people and close these studios. So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's gonna happen. Although she has said that the the focus, they have renewed focus on the console. The console. So I don't know, man. From my point of view, it has to come out next year. I don't. I feel like we know less about it though. There's less information around Project Helix compared to PlayStation 6. Like, there is so much more concrete knowledge of PlayStation 6 at this point that we know PlayStation 6 is coming November next year. But if you look at Microsoft, there's not a whole lot we know about what their strategy is. It's much harder to predict what they're doing because they're it's like Xbox has been all over the map since this year started. With price increases for the Series X that started last year, continued throughout this year. Last year they did it without a proper reason, and then this year now it's the excuse is the memory. So I mean, okay, well, we can kind of believe that because PlayStation started raising their prices this year because of the memory. So I don't know what's going to happen with Xbox. I really would like to know what's happening with Microsoft's strategy there because it's very hard to get a read on what they're actually going to do. I think they are going to launch it next year. I don't know when. Probably in the same quarter when PlayStation 6 launches. I do think that Microsoft will be in a better position if they launch before PlayStation 6. I'm not saying they have to. I just think that if it was the other way around, if they launch in the holiday season, so around, Black Friday, all that stuff, if Sony goes first with PlayStation 6 and Xbox comes after it, I I think the Xbox will kind of be drowned out by the noise surrounding the initial launch of PlayStation 6. Just because I feel like the PlayStation 6 has more it has more mindshare globally. So maybe in certain markets, Xbox can do really well if they launch close to PlayStation, but I kind of think if it were up to me, I would want to launch Xbox before PlayStation, and I would want to give it enough of a buffer in terms of the amount of time, the amount of weeks where it gets a lot of the headlines, a lot of the news, a lot of the marketing hype, where it's far enough away from the PlayStation 6 that it doesn't end up getting drowned out by the PlayStation, because I think the PlayStation just has always had a stronger resonance with gamers in the console market than Xbox. It's definitely been like this since the PS4 and the Xbox One. And I really don't know what Microsoft can do to win back the hearts of the gamers. Because especially when you hear news stories like, oh, they're laying off like all the people at IdTech, and they're laying off 4,800 people, and they're closing these game studios, and they're they're gonna focus on console, but okay, what does that mean exactly? And They're, you know, they first they increased the price of Game Pass, and then they like retracted that when she took over, and it's back down again. So they've done so many like 180-degree turns that I don't know what's gonna happen next. Like, so I really think they need to distance themselves from Sony's launch window, even though that might not be the best thing to do from a seasonal standpoint. Because if you like, if Sony launches in the holiday season and you want to launch before them, that would mean that you would need to launch around like back to school or like sometime after. Basically, you would need to launch around early October at the latest. At the latest. Knowing that Sony typically launches November, like right before the big winter break, like Sony brings out a console. I mean, you don't believe me? Go look at PS3, go look at PS4, go look at PS5. I mean, the writing is on the wall every 7 years. Sony's very predictable, but Microsoft is not predictable because they've kind of put themselves in this weird situation now. So I don't know. The other thing too, there is that whole factor of the memory and the SSD pricing and all that stuff. Um, I really think that there's no way around it. I think the consoles are gonna launch and they're gonna be very, very expensive. We're talking like Steam machine prices. Steam machine prices, guys, for PlayStation 6 and Project Helix. They need to make the consoles upgradable. Now that's an interesting idea, but I don't see how that would work. I feel like the consoles are sold in a similar fashion to like smartphones. You know what I mean? Like when you buy a smartphone, you're gonna hold that smartphone for like, at least if you're not a phone enthusiast, you're gonna buy a smartphone and you're gonna hold on to it as long as possible until it's way beyond the warranty and the screen breaks somehow, or the battery doesn't hold charge anymore, or you know, like you basically are forced to replace it because multiple hardware problems start happening due to accidents, and or you no longer get Android updates, or it's just too old, you know, that kind of thing. So the PlayStation, the Xbox, they're similar in that regard. It's like a closed ecosystem platform thing, kind of like the phone, where it's like you buy it and you hold on to it as long as you can, and that's it. I don't see how it would. I don't see how they would benefit from making it upgradable. Because you have to understand, not every gamer cares about upgradability. I think this is something that enthusiasts don't really think about when they look at consoles. It's like, it's an interesting idea to make a console upgradable, but in practice, let's look at the PlayStation 5 as an example. The PlayStation 5 gives you the ability to add an M.2 SSD. The PlayStation 5 supports M.2 NVMe up to 22 110, I believe. I think it supports, if I remember correctly, you can fit a 22 110, even though no one really uses that. So realistically, a 2280 is what most people put in there. So it supports that. It allows the user to install that. And a lot of people that I've talked to that have a PlayStation 5, you guys, I don't know, because most of the people that watch this channel are tech enthusiasts, but most of the people that I know in real life that have PlayStation 5s have had PlayStation 5 for at least 3 or 4 or 5 years now, and not once have they ever bothered to install an NVMe drive. I know 2 people that have installed NVMe drives, and that's only because they have a big game library on the PlayStation. But the other 3 or 4 people that I can think of right now that have PS5s, none of them have installed an NVMe because they're too afraid of damaging the console because they don't know how to well, it's like, yeah, they can watch a YouTube video. I mean, I have a YouTube video of how to open the PS5 and install an M.2. But Even though that video exists, they don't care. They don't dare to open up the PlayStation 5 and fiddle with the little metal plate with the screw and then have to fit the little thing in. They're too scared that they will break the connector, they'll snap the NVMe in half, or something catastrophic will happen. So it's like, they're not going to dare to do that. So, and you have to keep in mind, the average gamer doesn't care to open up their computer hardware or their console. They just want it to work out of the box. They're not going to go, like, if they buy a pre-build, they're not going to go in the BIOS. They're not going to check if XMP or Expo is turned on for their RAM. They don't care. If their RAM ships from the factory with DDR5 3600 or 4800, they're just gonna run it out of the box with that slow RAM, and that's just how they're gonna use it. You would be surprised how many gamers are actually like that. I don't know if it's a surprising thing or a not surprising thing, but that is actually the reality. So the idea of making the console, I like the idea of making the console upgradable, but let's be honest here, the average gamer doesn't want it to be upgradable. They don't care. The fact that it allows you to install an NVMe is very impressive, to be frank. This is very impressive, because Xbox doesn't allow you to install an NVMe. So it's like, whoa. So yeah, I don't expect the consoles to be upgradable, other than storage. The storage will be upgradable, but like the GPU, the RAM, that's not gonna factor in. You don't care what average gamer thinks. Yeah, but it doesn't matter what you think though. You gotta look at it from the market. It's really what is the market mover? Like, it's the average gamer though. They're the ones who call the shots, because they're the ones who spend all the money in mass to buy a console or a PC or whatever, or a specific game like GTA or whatever it may be, right? So those are the things that a lot of these decisions around, okay, should we make the console have a upgradable NVMe drive? Should we allow the user to open up the console and not void the warranty? You know, like that. These are all decisions that are, because it's like, okay, well, the average person's too afraid to open the console, so I guess we can make it upgradable for the people who actually care. But most people don't do that. Most most gamers are not tech enthusiasts. That's the reality. There are far more gamers that don't care about computer hardware than there are gamers that care about computer hardware. Adapters for Xbox to let you connect to standard NVMe. Yeah, you can with either their proprietary connector or the USB. Yeah, most of the people that watch this channel are technical. But we're talking about, when we talk about consoles and industry trends and like really topics that the decision making is definitely influenced by the mass market. It's unfortunately, it's not people who watch this channel. It's people who, you know, play League of Legends, but they bought a pre-built computer, or they game on their laptop from 4 years ago or 5 years ago or 6 years ago. You know, there's nothing wrong with those people. That's just the average gamer. Okay, I think that covers it for this episode of Tech Thursdays. Oh, actually, you know, let's talk about things that you can get this year that are not expensive computer hardware components. Let's remove all of this, actually. I don't know if I want to remove the whole. Let's just leave that there. So, keyboards. Keyboards. Let's change the topic now. Let's talk about, this is like bonus content for Tech Thursdays, because it was suggested yesterday that let's talk about different things that you could upgrade other than RAM, GPU, CPU, basically the things that we've continuously talked about all year. So keyboards. So you guys tell me, what type of keyboards do you guys use? And when I say that, I don't mean I have a Corsair whatever keyboard, or I have a Razer whatever keyboard. No. The type of technology that the keyboard switches use. The keyboard keys actually use under the keys. I don't know what 75%. What is 75%? I don't even know what that means. TMR keyboard. Keyboard. I do not know what you guys have to tell me what 75% is. I don't know what that is. Optical. Magnetic. Okay. I don't know what. Okay, well, apparently I did not do enough research on this topic to bring this up, but somebody suggested that I talk about something other than, the expensive components. Oh, 10 keyless. 10 keyless. Yeah, okay. TKL. You're talking about TKL? Yeah, you should have said TKL. I don't understand. 75% is like, what is that? Okay, but that's not what I meant. I didn't really mean the form factor. I really meant the type of switches. 75% is smaller than TKL, so so that's like compact? Optical mechanical. I don't know what that is, guys. All right, so you guys, we're gonna have to tell me what that is, because I don't know what any of this stuff is. I don't have any of these type of keyboards, so unless mechanical is like buckled springs or something, I don't know what this is. Oh, actually, mechanical keyboard. Oh no, magnetic keyboard. Yeah, magnetic keyboard. Okay, so I don't know what any of this stuff is. So I'm gonna list what I use. Okay, so I don't use any of that stuff because I don't know what any of that stuff is. So I use 3 different types of keyboards, not counting whatever is on a laptop. So there is Cherry MX is what I'm actually using right now on this exact computer. And then I also use another type called Romer G. And the third type is something called Topre. So these are what I use. So I didn't know those Hall effect and all that. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, do you actually need that for a keyboard? So these are what I use. So this specifically, I use something called Cherry MX Brown. The keyboard that I'm typing on right now is Cherry MX Brown, which is the only one that I actually like out of all the Cherry MX. I used to have a Cherry MX Blue, which was way too loud and annoying. So I replaced that with Brown. And then I've always liked Cherry MX Brown. In fact, I might actually like typing on Cherry MX Brown than these other two. So, but I guess I don't even know who makes these other 3. Like, Cherry MX makes the Cherry MX switches. This is a German brand, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure this is German keyboard or German origin. Romer G is Japanese. This is from a company called Omron, which was contracted to Logitech. And then Topre is also Japanese. So we have German, Japanese, and Japanese. I don't know who makes these other ones. I don't know anything about this stuff, other stuff over here. So so the one I'm using right now, I'll tell you what I actually use. So this one is a Corsair, whatever this thing is, K95. This one is a Logitech G910, and this one is a Real Force RGB, which I don't even think you can get this anymore. All of these are full size keyboards with the macro. Well, the Real Force doesn't have the macro keys, but the K95 and the Logitech G910 all have the macro keys. It's possible to customize the way the Switch operates. Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. So it's like, whatever. Uh, these are what I use. So I guess these other ones are good. I mean, I've never used them, so I don't really have any experience using those. But wow, I did not know that there were all these other types of keyboards. But again, I've had these keyboards forever. Like I feel like I've had my Topre keyboard for how many years have I had this? I probably had this for like uh 8 or 9 years. This one is probably my newest one, or no, maybe this one's the newest one. I think I got this one in like 2021, and I think I got the Corsair K95 back in like 2019 or something, or 2018. I don't know, somewhere around there. That sounds about right. So, I mean, all of these have the, what do you call it? The actuation. They have the bump, the actuation. Cherry MX Brown and Romer G are actually very, very similar. It's hard to describe the difference between these two. Romer G feels a little bit more mushy than the Cherry MX. And the Topre is really, I can't describe Topre. Although if I had to approximate, like Topre is kind of like, it's kind of like a mix between Rubber Dome and Cherry MX Brown. It's really hard to describe Topre if you've never used a Topre keyboard. It is a really interesting keyboard. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of other ones too. There's like all the different Cherry MX. There's the ones that don't have the tactile. I guess tactile is the word. Like the Cherry MX Black, the Cherry MX Red. There's the actuation or the green, the blue, the brown. I think those are the ones that have the actual actuation where it's like a tactile bump. The brown is the quietest one. The green, I think, is the loudest one. Although the blue one is clicky. The blue one is clicky. The green one is clickier, but it's heavier. And then I guess another type which we haven't really mentioned would be like the old. Do you guys know what it was? The IBM typewriter style, like buckled. I don't even know how to spell that. You know what I'm talking about? Like the IBM spring. What do you call that? Buckling. There you go. Buckling spring keyboard. Yeah, that one. This thing is like the legendary typing style keyboard. But it's really loud though. I mean, it's like clicky and weighty. So I mean, although those modern ones, magnetic optical, I've never used any of those, so I don't really know. Buckling spring, man. Those are like really, really good. The closest thing that I've used on a modern keyboard that is kind of like buckling spring, but not really, is Cherry MX Green. Cherry MX Green is like the heaviest Cherry MX. It's like clicky, but it's heavier. So it's more, you have to push with more force. I forgot the grams, the amount of force you have to press on the green one to get it to actuate, but it's more than blue. It's like 5 grams or 10 grams more than blue. IBMers were all around me at another enterprise. Wait, what? I mean, I've used a bunch of like the rubber dome. There's rubber dome. I mean, I guess I'll put that over here. I've used that one. I have like old rubber dome. Rubber dome. This is like your typical like $10 keyboard at Micro Center. You know what I'm saying? Like that rubber dome. It's a lot of people don't like rubber dome, even though personally I don't really think there's anything wrong with a $10 rubber dome keyboard. I mean, they get the job done at the end of the day. I've never had a rubber dome keyboard go bad on me. All my older keyboards back in the day were all rubber dome. I only started using mechanical keyboards within the last 10 years. Like I think the first one I got was an older Cherry MX Brown. It's an interesting keyboard that I used to have. Actually, I still have it. It's actually behind me. But I used to have this one keyboard from Cooler Master. Well, I keep saying I used to have. I still have it. I just don't use it that often anymore. So it's really interesting because it has your typical keys, but it basically has the, you know, QWERTY, this thing. It has like these keys. It has these keys. You know what I'm talking about? Like it has like all the keys, the enter keys over here, and it's got like the bottom row. It's got like all this stuff. But then right over here, it has the numeric keypad. It's got like the numeric keypad, like zeros at the bottom. You know, so instead of having the insert, home, page up, page down, end, delete, instead of having those keys, it has those keys, but they're overlaid on top of the numeric keypad. So if you disable the numeric keypad, you gain access to the insert, delete, home, end, page up, page down. I don't know what they call that type of keyboard. I wish there were more keyboards like that because it effectively it's the size of a 10 keyless, or what you guys are calling a 75%, but it still has the option of accessing the numeric keypad. And this was a Cooler Master. I don't even know. It was like Cooler Master something keyboard. I forgot. I've had this thing since like 2011 or 2013, maybe 2013. No, maybe 2013. I got this keyboard in like, it was my very first mechanical keyboard. And I still have it. Yeah, so and this is a Cherry MX Brown. Cherry MX Brown. I don't know what they call this keyboard because it has home, insert, delete, all that stuff overlaid on top of the numeric keypad keys. The arrow keys are also overlaid on top of like 0, 2, the 00 and the whatever the other, like the forward slash. So it has the arrow keys. It has the home, delete, all that stuff. You turn off numpad, then you have access to those keys. You turn on numpad, then you gain access to the numeric keypad keys. So very, very interesting keyboard. This is one of my favorite keyboards that I used for many, many years until around the pandemic was when I upgraded to this Corsair or the Taupe Ray, or one of them. The most recent keyboard that I got is this Romer G, Logitech G910. Funnily enough, Yoshi P, the producer of Final Fantasy XIV, he literally uses the exact same keyboard, the Logitech G910. You use the cheapest rubber dome keyboard as a backup? Well, I use one of those. I got another keyboard recently, actually. So the most recent keyboard that I got is this one keyboard that I got from Best Buy. I don't remember the model name. It's basically Logitech, and it's for the living room, and it has a touchpad. It's got like an actual, like, like a laptop touchpad. It's got a touchpad with the click buttons. It's got like the left click, right click, and then you have all your, your keys. You got your function keys. You have your the regular keys or whatever. So I got one of these. Is it K400? Logitech K400. Yes, that is the keyboard. Logitech. That is the keyboard. Logitech K400. This is the most recent keyboard that I got. This thing. For the living room. For the living room PC. This is the keyboard that I use with the racing simulator. So I can get access to the keyboard that uses with the computer. Really good, man. Yeah, that's what I use. Logitech K400. Yeah, man. That's it. That's the one from Best Buy. Is that like the one keyboard that everybody gets for the living room? Is Logitech the only company that makes this keyboard that has this, like, it's like a Bluetooth, or it has like the little dongle, wireless keyboard with a touchpad? Is there no one else that does that? You would think that other people would think to put something out there to compete with this thing. Like, where are the other alternatives to this Logitech keyboard? Because I remember when I was looking at the keyboards for a living room keyboard, I was like, man, there's like no other choices. There's like no other choices. Like, what is this? It's like this one keyboard. Yeah, but what are the other ones? I mean, like, the fact that other people have that same exact keyboard and they know exactly what I'm talking about. When I started describing the keyboard, someone immediately was like, "Is it the K400?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's the K400." The fact that it's so famous that everybody knows exactly what keyboard it is when I start describing it. The Amazon keyboard? The Amazon keyboard. Why would you need an Amazon keyboard though? Because wouldn't you just use like the remote control for the TV to access the Amazon app? Anyway. Alright, well, that was what I wanted to talk about something that was not related to RAM and SSDs and the current situation with computer hardware. Because the keyboards have remained untouched by this whole like memory fiasco that basically has defined 2026. So yeah, I mean, if you don't if you want to upgrade something, I mean, you might as well just look at upgrading keyboards. Maybe, I don't know. Like, it's just a thought. It beats having to buy SSDs right now. That's for sure. They announced new AIOs, but all of them have screens. See, none of that stuff. The AIOs with screens don't really appeal to me because my computer sits on the floor under my desk, so I never really see it on a daily basis. I'll never actually. I have to like make a concentrated effort to like look down under the table to see the actual AIO. So to me, I don't know. I mean, it's cool if that stuff exists. I personally would never buy any of that stuff because to me it's not practical. So I would never end up using it. Like, I would never get the benefit of the actual screen on the AIO. I mean, I guess it's cool if it shows you like the temperature, CPU temperature and stuff. But then you got to burn like a USB 2.0 port on your motherboard for that. And then you have to install the third-party software. So it's like, I don't know. White label brands for smaller ones, but the price are almost the same. That people just buy Logitech. Well, Logitech, I forgot what Logitech did. There was some kind of controversy around Logitech a few years ago. I don't remember what it was, but I remember people were boycotting Logitech products for something. I can't remember what it was. I know that Logitech acquired some other companies in the last 5 or 7 years. But yeah, they've always, my experience with Logitech is they've always made like really good quality stuff. Like I'm using a Logitech mouse right now. Even though I have a Corsair keyboard, I'm using a Logitech mouse. You know, I have this Logitech K400 for the living room. I have a Logitech Roamer G, like a Logitech Orion Spectrum G910. This is probably the most fully featured keyboard that I actually have. I mean, like I guess the Corsair one has some similar macro keys. The Logitech keyboard has more macro keys than the Corsair. The Logitech keyboard also has a kickstand for your cell phone. So yeah, this is definitely the most fully featured keyboard that I own. And it's got the Roamer G Japanese quality, fully redundant mechanical switches. So this is probably, like, out of all my keyboards, I suspect that this one will probably have the longest lifespan. I'm not saying that the other ones are going to fail anytime soon, but I have a feeling that this one's the one that's built the most like a tank compared to the others. Topre uses a capacitive. It's capacitive touch style, like with a dome, with a physical dome. So it's kind of like magnetic and Cherry MX combined. So to me, that could eventually fail far into the future, but I think the Logitech is Logitech's G Hub. Yeah, but I don't use their software. Well, okay, I say that, but I do use a certain Logitech software, but I only use it for the mouse. I don't actually use it for the keyboard. I use the what is it called? Logitech gaming software, and it does detect my keyboard. Oh no, it doesn't detect my keyboard. It detects my mouse. Yeah. On this computer. Because on this computer, I'm using a Logitech mouse with a Corsair keyboard. On the other computer, I'm using a Logitech mouse with a Logitech keyboard. And on another computer, I'm using a Logitech mouse with a Topre keyboard, which is a Real Force keyboard. What do you think of those small external designs? You mean those aquarium cases? I don't like the aquarium cases. All the AL Logitech. What's the AL? The AL? The what? What do you guys think about monitors? I guess that'll be the last thing we talk about is I guess we could talk about mice, but I'm very boring when it comes to computer mice, though. Like, first of all, I don't use wireless mice. That's number one. I don't use wireless keyboards for that matter. I don't want to be bothered with batteries. The only wireless keyboard I use is literally the K400 for the living room because I can use it like a remote control. But if it's for a computer, like a desktop computer, I do not do wireless anything. No wireless mouse, no wireless keyboard. Both of them are wired. Like the mouse I'm using is literally this. I don't even know if it can reach. Yeah, it can reach. This is the keyboard. This is the mouse I use. Logitech. Look at that, Logitech. Buttons. Buttons on the side for the macros. Logitech mouse. That's what I use. Wired mouse. I cannot be bothered with any of the batteries. No, I use a wired mouse. You can see, look at that frayed cable though. Look at that. Oh, I don't know if it's coming through. Hold on. Look at that frayed cable, man. On this old Logitech mouse. Look at that. Look at that fraying cable. The braided cable is tearing away. Look at that. Hold on. Look at that frayed cable. Still going good. Look at that. Logitech. Logitech. I've been using this mouse for I don't even know how many years. In fact, it's so old. I could tell this mouse is so old because I have a newer one on the other computer. This one has the old Logitech logo. The new mouse doesn't use the Logitech logo. It uses like a G something Logitech L Logi something logo. So this is the OG, man. Look at that frayed cable and look at that going strong. So yeah, no, I don't do wireless mice. I only use wired stuff. The only wireless mice I would use is like with a laptop. I would use like a Bluetooth mouse with a laptop. But I would not use it with a desktop. I would use it with a laptop, just not with a desktop. Because that's all about mobility. You know what I'm saying? It depends on what you're doing. A desktop computer doesn't move. It literally is stationary. Why do you need wireless stuff? Like, why do you need a wireless mouse or a wireless keyboard if the desktop literally never moves? Just do the cable management. Or don't do the cable management. No, my wireless mouse... My wireless mouse is... hold on. What is the wireless mouse I got? Trying to remember what it was. Man, it's so old I can't remember what it's called. Okay. This is the wireless mouse that my experience with wireless mice is called this one. Microsoft Sidewinder X8. This is my wireless gamer mouse. There it is. There it is. My wireless mouse. I found the PDF file from Microsoft's website. Hold on. There it is, guys. Check it out. Oh, hold on. Wait, where's the, check it out. Check it out. Microsoft Sidewinder X8 mouse. That's my wireless mouse, guys. There's the charging cable. It comes with a rechargeable nickel metal high NIMH something. It's not lithium ion. It's not lithium ion. It's whatever it is. It's like a AA battery that goes in, and it has a weird proprietary connector. And inside here, you can put weights in the mouse, and you can store them in this little thing that connects to your computer via USB Type A. So this thing was so bad and so flaky, and the scroll wheel on it went bad after like 6 months. I mean, it still works, but it lost the actuation. So the scroll wheel just like scrolls. It just scrolls like it rolls like a wheel. I'm like, where are the brakes on this scroll wheel, man? Like, what happened? It has the battery light indicator. It's got all the RGB in the world. It's like the weirdest position for the click buttons and everything. So when I experience wireless, when someone says they use a wireless mouse, this is what I think of, and I'm like, I am so sorry that you use a wireless mouse, man, because this is like so bad. So I was like, never again, never again. We're going wired mice all the way. Never, ever, ever again. I still have the mouse. It still works. You know what I use this with? My home server. This is literally the home server's mouse because I never touch the home server. I access it remotely. So it's like I don't actually need to use the mouse that often. And I don't even have the battery in it anymore. I think the battery died. So it's physically connected to the charging cable all the time. So it became a wired mouse. Oh man. Microsoft, man. Microsoft Sidewinder X8 mouse. The real deal right there. Oh man, wow. Gaming. Gaming. Oh, let me find my other one. Logitech. What is this thing? What is this thing called? Logitech. Wait, what's the model number on this? I don't even know what the model number is. Where's the model number? It's so old, it's like eroded away. I don't even know what the model number is anymore. It's like, whatever, gamers, gaming. It's a gaming mouse. So I had to get it because you have to remember, guys. It's Microsoft and it says gaming mouse. What are you gonna do? You're gonna buy it. It's a Microsoft gaming mouse. Duh. Yeah, Microsoft. Well, let me go find the mouse real quick. Let me go find that mouse. Let me go find that mouse. Hold on. I want to show you guys that mouse. Yeah, man. Check this out. Check this out. Microsoft. There it is. Check it out. Microsoft. Listen to that. Listen to that broken scroll wheel. Check this out. Microsoft wireless mouse. See where the that's where the proprietary charger goes. I gotta remember how to open this thing up. I'm gonna. Okay, there we go. There's no battery in it. The battery. There's no battery in it. I can't even charge it anymore. There's no battery. Yeah, man. Microsoft wireless gaming mouse right there. That's the real deal. I gotta remember to put this back. I don't want to lose this thing. All right. The rubber is so old. Well, okay, see? This stuff was replaceable though. Like this little black rubber stuff, you could the mouse came with additional ones in that cable thing, the charging cable. So, all right, well, I guess that was a little bit different from what we normally talk about. But yeah, mice, keyboards, there's a lot of choices now. Apparently there's a whole bunch of other keyboards that I didn't even know existed, which I'm going to have to do some research on all these other keyboards like optical and magnetic cuz I didn't know anything about that. No. No. Well, okay, here's the thing. You guys tell me. The only way I'm going to consider a wireless mouse is if there's a. You tell me, is there a wireless mouse that has all the buttons? Is there a wireless mouse that has the buttons?
My wireless mouse is called a controller. I have the 8-bit Do Ultimate 2 Game Sir G7 Pro and the Steam controller.
The 8. Hold on, what is that? The 8-bit Do Ultimate. Ultimate 2? Oh, that's. Oh, okay. And then you said you also have the Game Sir G7 Pro. Oh, well, okay, yeah, you said they were game controllers. For a second, I thought, wait, you said wireless mouse, but you said a controller. Okay, so it's a game controller. And the Steam controller. Wait, you have the Steam controller? I thought you couldn't get the Steam controller unless you were able to get the Steam machine. Because I thought the pre-orders for the Steam controller sold out so fast that there's no way to get one unless you got the Steam machine. And then the Steam machine sold out super fast too. GameSir G7 Tri-Mode Xbox and PC controller. So let me ask you this. When you use that, do the games, when you're using that mouse, the mouse, when you use that controller, do you automatically, it's like when you use the controller with games, do the games automatically like show the mapping with the controller buttons and not the keyboard buttons? Like, does it automatically map to the, what I mean is the on-screen buttons that you see in the game? Oh, Xbox layout? You get Steam controller day one. Razer Naga V2 Pro. Razer. 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 Uh-oh. Razer. Uh-oh. Razer V2. Razer V2 Pro. Okay, so this one does have the buttons. It's a wireless one. Uh-oh, it's got the cable. It's got the cable. Uh-oh, it's got that cable like this thing. Wait, is that a USB cable, though? I don't know, man. That thing looks way too expensive. That's way too expensive. $160 something for a Razer. Nah. No. You know how much this wired Logitech with all the buttons cost? This thing is like, this was like $30. This was like $30. And I've had it for like, I don't know, what feels like 10 years at this point. I definitely had it since before 2015. So I've actually had this mouse for like 11 years. $30 11 years ago? I mean, I feel like that's a good deal. And it still works. Just saying. So I don't have to worry about the lithium ion or whatever battery dying. Like the way this thing's battery died. So this discussion about the mice and the keyboards, I find the keyboard is interesting because I didn't know anything about those new keyboards. But the discussion about the mice I find hilarious. It's like, I just use the most basic, cheap Logitech mouse that has all the buttons. Tri-mode means you can use it wired and wireless. Well, I would assume that you could use it wired if you have the cable plugged in. I mean, that's how I use this Microsoft mouse. The Microsoft mouse doesn't have a battery. I haven't had a battery in here in like, I don't know, like 10 years? The battery died a decade ago, so it's just a wired mouse now. I just have it plugged into the cable all the time. The Steam controller works out of the box with the games that don't support controller. Okay. Yeah. The Steam controller is interesting because that's another thing. Like, remember we were talking earlier about Valve does all those projects because they're not told by shareholders on what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. So they're able to put a lot of R&D into things like the Steam controller. That alleviates the battery issue. Battery lasts for a week. Yeah, the battery lasting for a week does not sound very good. Because this thing, when it was brand new, to Microsoft's credit, this thing had good battery life. Like, the battery on this used to last at least 2 to 2.5 weeks. So, but this is not a lithium ion mouse. Like, this thing had a nickel, what do you call it? Nickel metal. It's like NIMH or something. It's like the older AA rechargeable. In fact, I could probably buy a rechargeable AA that's nickel metal, whatever, and that would probably work in this mouse. And I could probably charge it with this mouse's cable. So, If I really wanted this thing to be wireless again, I could make it into a wireless mouse again. But like I said, with the scroll wheel not working that well. It like spins. It literally it spins. Like the scroll wheel spins. It'll stop. It's like it's broken inside. Like whatever they had in there was cheap. So, but again, this mouse is like, I don't know when I got this mouse. I think I got this mouse in like 2011. That PDF file that we were looking at earlier was 2008, but that was probably when this thing was first available on the market. I bought this in 2011. Somewhere around 2011 sounds right. So I'm going to say I got this mouse in 2011. But yeah. Logitech can get their charging pad thing under your mouse pad. I don't know. All this talk about wireless mice, I'm only going to use a wireless mouse for laptops. I'm not going to use wireless mice for desktops. I see no reason to. I still see no reason to use a wireless mouse. But the only thing that it'll do, I'll tell you what it'll do. It'll get rid of this happening. That won't happen. It's like, yeah, look at that. That's like, I don't know, 7-8 years of the wire just friction from moving the mouse. Just moving the mouse. This thing's rubbing against something, and it's just like all the cables. Look at that getting torn up. So yeah, wireless mice definitely fix that problem. So I don't know. I mean, this is the only mouse that I have that I actually use. Besides the one whatever wireless mouse that I use with the laptop, which is not this, by the way. It's definitely not this thing. But I have I've got a newer one of these. It's literally the exact same mouse, but it's a newer one because it got a different logo on it. It's got the newer Logitech G logo, whereas this one has the old Logitech logo. Wireless mouse or shorter range and has some latency. The cord drag. Well, the cord drag is what causes this to happen. The fraying of the cable. If you have a braided cable. You can always hang the cable. I don't know, man. That when you said that, I just thought it's gonna look like there's a spider web just hanging from the monitor. That's gonna look so bad. I don't know. I don't know about that. That just no, no. This mouse, as long as this mouse is still working and it continues to work and there's no problems with it, I don't see a reason to change it. Maybe for a new build in the future or like an upgrade. Well, I don't know, because upgrade cycles this coming end of the year is probably gonna be so expensive. I'm not even gonna bother with a mouse upgrade. But anyway, I think that does it for this episode of Tech Thursdays. At least we talked about something that was completely random and like probably more interesting than all the random stuff about Xbox. Anyway, guys, if you're new to the channel, we do the weekly Tech Thursdays episodes every Thursday, as the name implies. This is Tech Thursdays, episode 163. If you enjoy this content and you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel if you feel that you got some value out of this off-the-wall, random, hodgepodge discussion. We also do gaming-related streams, typically on the weekend. So if you're interested in that, just stop by and just discuss whatever. It could be tech-related, doesn't have to be tech-related. It could be gaming-related. We do that from time to time. This weekend, we are specifically going to be focusing on a game that just came out. That it's actually an expansion to a game that came out 2 years ago, and that game is Grand Blue Fantasy Relink Endless Ragnarok. So we will be streaming that probably tomorrow evening. I don't know about like Saturday or Sunday, but probably tomorrow. So if you tune in around the same time tomorrow, you'll probably catch me playing Endless Ragnarok on stream. We're going to be trying to do all the new content in the expansion. Very, very similar to the Iceborne expansion for Monster Hunter World. So it's similar format, similar style of gameplay loop in terms of trying to upgrade your weapon, upgrade your character's gear, and all that stuff. So that's what we're gonna focus on this weekend. If you want to tune in, that's fine. If not, that's also fine. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you guys next week on Tech Thursdays. Until then, take care, and I will see you then. Thanks.